An alarming new study from Johns Hopkins University and the CDC that found almost 1 in 4 alcohol ads on a sample of national TV programs in the 25 largest U.S. TV markets exceeded the alcohol voluntary standards. The highest were Houston, L.A., Dallas, Atlanta, and Chicago. Dr. Thomas Wright is here. He is a child and adolescent psychiatrist, senior vice president of medical affairs from Rosecrance treatment facilities. So I want to first break down this study because teens and drinking, we hear about it all the time. It's kind of a cool thing to do among teens sometimes.
Well, that's right, and it probably always has been a cool thing, a seemingly cool thing to do. But what we know about teens is that alcohol, especially teens, are quite vulnerable in terms of their brain development, their neurologic development. And this is a time that any sort of insults like alcohol or excessive alcohol intake can sort of hurt that development. And it's also a sign of opportunity, or a time of opportunity too, where teens can learn how to live a healthy life in addition.
Well, break down the study for us, because I think the thing that was most intriguing when I read about your study was that teens' brains are not yet developed until they're in their early 20s, really, when they get much older. So you're saying that there is a way to stop this early to make sure that the damage is not done, because obviously it will be?
Right. We used to think that brains stop developing much earlier. Now we really do know that they really don't stop and fully develop until you're in the early 20s. So really, adolescence, we used to think about ending at 18. It really doesn't. Adolescence, in terms of neurodevelopment, doesn't really stop until you're 22, 23 years old. So there's a lot of opportunity to grow during that time, and grow in good ways or bad ways. And certainly introducing things like alcohol into that, which shouldn't be there, or other drugs, because starting with alcohol can lead to other drug use too, can sort of affect that development in a bad way that we would love to avoid.
So how do we avoid it? What are some of the signs that we can look for in our teen?
Well, first of all, you got to know that teens actually do use drugs and alcohol, and so you have to be
face reality,
face the brutal facts. And even your teen, if you think they're wonderful, it doesn't mean they can't have some peer pressure to use. So you have to realize that that can happen. You need to talk to your teens. You need to have dinners with them. You need to talk about the risks of alcohol. You need to have open communication with them so they can tell you if something's going on. But there's some other signs too that you can look for in terms of drug or alcohol use with teens: failing grades, changing relationships with their friends, being very secretive about text messaging or their phone use. We often tell parents it's okay to sort of look at your kids' phones or to talk about their friends still, because some of that could be a sign of something going on too.
Is there something that in general we should do better at on television? We were talking about the ads and the marketing. Speak to that. Is there something that needs to change, you think, as a whole?
Well, I think there probably does. I mean, the study that Johns Hopkins published pointed to some self-regulation that the alcohol media market said that they would do in terms of not exposing alcohol advertising to kids in certain sort of markets.
See, we all know it's about making money, so it's really tough for them to cut back on that, it sounds like.
It is, because, and it apparently is working, because we do know from a number of these studies that kids, if they do see the advertising, they do start drinking. It's directly correlated. So they either have to, the alcohol companies need to self-regulate a little bit better, or somehow we need to put the pressure on them to do it too.
Yeah, and we need to work harder as parents, I guess, to combat all of that. Dr. Thomas Wright, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
Thanks. A great study. Well, coming up next, the circus is in town, and we're live behind the